On this episode of Cinema Disaster, since it's Christmas time, we're going to be talking about what I think is the all-time top 10 Christmas horror films of all time. The first one I want to go into is the 1974 film Black Christmas, which was directed by Bob Clark, who also directed Porky's and A Christmas Story. I know it's had like 2, maybe 3 remakes by now, but the original is the best, and that's absolutely one you need to see. And once again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the plots. I'm just going to suggest these, and you can go out and watch them all with your family. You know, these are great. These are great family films for the holidays. They go right along with Miracle on 34th Street and, Santa Claus the movie, stuff like that. The second one I want to talk about is Christmas Evil, which came out in 1980. It was also released under the title You Better Watch Out, and it was released under the title Terror in Toyland. Synapse Films actually did a DVD release of this in 2006, which actually contains an audio commentary track by John Waters. And John Waters, as most of you know, was the writer-director for, Pink Flamingos, Desperate Living, Polyester, Female Trouble, I mean, you name it. And according to John Waters, this film here is the greatest Christmas film ever made. So you'll just have to go out and see for yourself. The third film I want to talk about is the 1984 Joe Dante monster invasion film Gremlins. And although this movie has nothing to do with Christmas, it takes place around Christmas time, which is why it makes the list. And you even got the great scene of the Gremlins attacking Santa Claus, and the cops are they just sit there and, they don't do anything about it. Isn't that their job, to help someone who is in trouble? And this guy's got, these green monsters all over him, and he's, screaming for help, and they roll the windows up, and they drive off. So, yeah, Gremlins, 1984. I'm sure you've seen it. Holiday classic, see it again. The next film on the list I want to talk about is a 1984 film called Night of the Comet. And this is one that, again, has nothing to do with Christmas, but it takes place during Christmas time. And it's science fiction horror. It's like zombie film, last person on Earth type of movie. It's got Catherine Mary Stewart in it, who was in The Last Starfighter, was in Penelope Spheeris' film Dudes, the movie Mischief, and it's a great film. It's a lot of fun. I think I've heard it referred to as Valley Girl meets Night of the Living Dead. So that's that one. The fifth film I want to talk about is a movie from 1984 called Silent Night, Deadly Night. This is one of those films where I think that the poster art is actually better than the film itself. Not that it's a terrible movie. I don't think it's the greatest horror Christmas movie in the world, but I mean, it's okay. It's decent. I own it. And, it's basically about a guy who goes crazy and dresses up as Santa and goes around on a killing spree. There was I don't know, 5 sequels, maybe 6 sequels, which I've never seen. I've heard some of the sequels are better than the original. So, again, great poster art, guy in a killer Santa Claus suit. Linnea Quigley from Return of the Living Dead is in this film, and I think she gets impaled by like these deer antlers from like a deer head that's hanging on a wall. I don't know. That's a standout scene to me. And for whatever reason, he wants, his tagline is punish every time like he kills someone. So that is Silent Night, Deadly Night. The next film I want to talk about is actually not horror. It's science fiction. It's definitely a cult film. It's Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. It's from 1964. This film is a completely out there concept. This is one of the poster art, or one of the several poster arts for this film. I actually own a VHS copy of this that has that artwork on it, which I ended up finding this at a video store here in town that was going out of business. And where most of the other films, I completely raided their horror section and bought like tons of their horror films, mostly for like $5 a pop. This one, however, was like $17, so I don't know. It was a little more pricey than the others. Well worth it though. The crazy plot to this is that these Martians invade Earth and they kidnap Santa Claus and they take him to Mars. And it's because there is no Christmas on Mars. And the sole purpose is for him to bring Christmas to Mars, to make the Martian children happy. It's totally fucked up. It's a fun movie, though. I wouldn't say it's the greatest film. Like, the plot and the art, the cover art, and the name alone builds up this expectation in your mind that the movie can never deliver. But once again, it's enjoyable, and I enjoy a lot of bad movies. This is a bad movie, but it's good bad in my opinion. So check that out. Another one I want to talk about is a movie called Maniac Cop 2, which came out in 1990. Again, has absolutely nothing to do with Christmas, but takes place on Christmas time, so it makes this list. It was actually produced by Larry Cohen, who was the director for the movie God Told Me To and The Stuff. Once again, there was three Maniac Cop films. Bruce Campbell is in this. And then you have Robert Z'Dar. And, it's a cop who gets killed, comes back from the dead, and goes around killing people. He's like a zombie cop or undead or whatever he is. But this is a really good film. The Maniac Cop series is really good. So, I urge you to check that out. Next movie on my list is a movie called Maniac, and it's from 1980. Again, nothing to do with Christmas, but it takes place during Christmas time. And this is about a serial killer who goes out and kills women, and he takes their scalps and puts them on mannequins that he has at his house. It's a great date film. I remember one time me and a friend showing it to a couple of girls that we met out at a club one night, and they were less than impressed. So this was remade recently, and it had mine's going blank, dude from The Faculty and the dude from the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit films. I don't know. You know who I'm talking about, though. Yeah. Anyway, Elijah Wood. That's him. Next film I want to talk about on this list is a movie called To All a Good Night. And I was not aware of this film until last year. A friend of mine turned me on to it. And I find this a very good film. It's another one of those Killer Santa Claus movies, only this takes place in like this all-girl, like, I guess it's like a finishing school or some sort of college or whatever. It's during Christmas break, and this movie actually stars Jennifer Runyon, who was in Ghostbusters. And 1970s porn star Harry Reams, who was in the 1972 film Deep Throat and the movie The Devil and Miss Jones. And once again, it's a lot of fun. It's a murder mystery type horror Christmas film. So, To All a Good Night came out in 1980. Check it out. Next one I want to do is one that you're probably not going to expect that should be on this list, and that is the 1946 film It's a Wonderful Life. And you're probably thinking, like, what the fuck is It's a Wonderful Life doing on a movie about Christmas horror and cult horror films? Well, that is because to me, It's a Wonderful Life is like one long Twilight Zone episode. I mean, all the shit that happens to this guy in this movie, to me, is a fucking nightmare. And I could, Rod Serling didn't write it, of course. It was Francis Ford Coppola. But I could easily see this being something that Rod Serling would have written and made for a Twilight Zone episode. Obviously it would have been condensed and shorter, but this has elements in it that are supernatural, and it just got everything. It's got Christmas. To me, it's got nightmarish elements to it, and it's got a lot of heart, and it is considered a Christmas classic, but because of the Twilight Zone-ish element that I view it to be, it belongs on this list, and it should be on yours too. Here's a movie I want to mention that is not Christmas, but it's still part of the holiday season, and it's a movie called New Year's Evil that came out in 1980, and this is a great New Year's film. It could also be considered a punk film. I did a top 10 punk movie of all time episode. Check that out if you haven't seen it. This movie I didn't put on the list because I totally wasn't thinking about it at the time. But it's basically this punk and new wave radio host, or I can't remember, radio host or TV host or something. And she's doing like this all-night show on television. And she keeps getting all these phone calls from this killer who claims that he is going to start murdering people at the stroke of midnight, one at every stroke of midnight for each time zone there is. And it's definitely a fun film. Is it the greatest film I've ever seen? No, but it is enjoyable. It's a decent film. I suggest watching it. It's a good New Year's film if you're looking for something horror. And I guess, yeah, that's my top 10 Christmas horror or Christmas cult films of all time. So make sure you check out each one of these films. And until next time, keep watching.